In this video, what we're going to do is we're going to look at and decipher a CSS code. We're going to grab a CSS file and we're going to go through the code line by line, and we're going to decipher a segment of code. And what I want you to do is grab a CSS file. You can have a look at csszengarden.com, and we've got it down. We can download a sample file that the site provides for us, and the licenses agreement is under Creative Commons, so make sure you check that out. A fantastic developers resource website. It's really good for developers looking to develop their skills in CSS. I strongly recommend coming back and looking at this site as well. You've probably seen me refer back to this site in tutorial videos, but check it out in your spare time as well. So what I've done is I've downloaded this CSS sample file. You can click to modify and you can download it, and it takes you directly to Dreamweaver. It will open up in Dreamweaver. The first thing we can see is that we've got Zengarden sample 1.css. That will be the file name. Now we can straight away recognize that it's a CSS file because it's got the extension .css. Next thing is that we've got the code, and you can have a look at all of the code like so. And don't get daunted at this stage. What I've done is I've selected a segment of code that I'm going to decipher. So the code that I've selected is a H3 tag, which is a heading 3, the third title down. You can have H1, H2, H3. This is the H3 tag, which is the third title for the document itself. And what I've then done is taken that title and taken that code, the snippet of code, and we're going to have a look at this code in a bit more detail. So here is the code, and you can see it's a H3 tag, and it's made up of a font, italic, normal, sans serif, and it has letter spacing of 1 pixel, no zero bottom margin, and it has a color followed by hexadecimal and a curly brace. So let's have a look at this in closer detail. You can see the code here, and you can see the curly brace and the curly brace here. By default, this is how Dreamweaver writes CSS. Now, one point to bear in mind is that we do not necessarily have to hand write and hand type code inside Dreamweaver. Dreamweaver actually generates that automatically for us, which is brilliant, just like we did in XHTML in my previous tutorials. However, that you may find some cases where you have to manually go inside and want to change something. So let's have a look at this code. What I've done is I've actually simplified this code for our understanding. As any programming language inside a computer environment is governed by a series of rules which we have to follow, and rules of which govern that language. So we have to look at these rules in a bit more detail. The first thing you see here is the selector, and what happens is that this is basically the tag used inside HTML, and it's a heading tag. The next thing you'll see is a curly brace, and the next thing here, which is this long line of code, this long snippet of code, is the declaration. So there's two basic things. So you've got your selector, and this long line is your declaration. Your declaration is what you want to declare for that style. The second thing inside the declaration, we have two elements. We have one, a property, which is the font in our case, which is this area here, and then we have the value, which is this here, like so. And what we've got the property. Now the property is what you want to change. So in our sense, it's a font, and the property itself is a font. The second thing is very simple, it's a value, and the value is basically what is going to be changed, and the value for us is italic, normal, Georgia, sans serif. So it's basically a font. We can have in here, we've got two values, so this is signified by a comma. We can even have one, so if I eliminated this area of the italic normal and this area here, we would then just have one value, right, opposed to having three different values. So that's very simple. So just to repeat, quick recap, we have a selector, then we have a big declaration of what we want to declare in style. We then have two components, which is the property and the value. Now you'll notice that I've kind of jigged this code so it runs in one line. However, when generating CSS, Dreamweaver will always create the code like so. So basically it follows in the same kind of in format. So you'll see the tag up here, which is a selector. You'll see curly brace, and you'll then see the property. Now the property and the value is significant by colon, like so. So you got dot dot, and you then have semicolon, which refers and ends the statement. So we have semicolon, 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 like so, and then we have curly brace. The semicolon separates the declaration. That's one thing to bear in mind. That's really basic, a few of the basic rules inside inside CSS. You can go back and refer to your Dreamweaver file, and you can kind of understand of what the other elements are doing following what I've just explained in this tutorial.